She left me while I was dying, then came back with a child that wasn't mine. You won't believe how she left me, but what she came back with 12 years later will leave you speechless. Let me just start by saying I never thought I'd be one of those people with a story so absurd and painful it sounds like a soap opera fever dream. But here I am, 44 years old, divorced for over a decade, and suddenly being contacted by the woman who crushed my heart when I needed her the most. We were together for 8 years, married for 6. Let's call her Sasha. She was my college sweetheart, the kind of girl who lit up every room but always had that sharp edge, you know? Like she was one bad day away from flipping the table. I saw it back then, how she'd lose it over small things like baristas spelling her name wrong or my mom calling her sweetheart. But I loved her, or at least the version of her I thought was real. When I got sick, some rare autoimmune thing that hit me like a train out of nowhere, I was in and out of hospitals for months. The scariest part wasn't the pain or the surgeries. It was watching the woman I married drift further and further away while I was stuck in a hospital bed. At first, she was there. Flowers, homemade soup, that kind of thing. But after a couple of weeks, her visits got shorter. Then it was texts instead of calls. Then, silence. I figured she was overwhelmed. Hell, I was overwhelmed. But I never expected to come back from a second surgery and find out she hadn't been home in 2 weeks. My nurse told me, in the most awkward tone ever, your wife said she'd be out of town for a while. She left a message with the front desk. No call, no text, just gone. At first, I thought maybe something happened. A family emergency. Anything. I called her sister. Her sister, who always kind of liked me more than she liked Sasha, told me the truth. She moved out. She's staying with someone new. I'm sorry, but she said she couldn't handle the hospital stuff anymore. That someone new turned out to be a coworker of hers, a regional sales manager for some supplement company. He drove a Tesla and took her to Bali 2 months after she served me divorce papers. I was still in physical therapy, trying to learn how to walk again, when I got the paperwork. That was 12 years ago. I rebuilt everything. Took years, but I finally got healthy. I got a new job, made a life. I dated a little here and there, but never got serious. Trust issues? Yeah, no kidding. I haven't thought about her in a long time. And then last week, out of nowhere, she emailed me. Subject line, can we talk? No greeting, no context. Just 3 words. So yeah, her email said, can we talk? I stared at it for a solid 5 minutes, not even sure if it was real. Checked the address. Same one from years ago, she never changed it. I hovered over the delete button, but curiosity and maybe a dash of rage won out. I replied with 2 words. About what? She responded less than an hour later, full-on wall of text. No. Hey, how have you been? Just straight into a guilt-ridden monologue that read like something off a daytime talk show. I know I'm the last person you want to hear from. I've spent the last decade regretting how things ended between us. I wasn't in the right headspace back then. I didn't know how to deal with your illness. I was scared, and I made horrible choices. But I'm not that person anymore. I've grown. I've changed. I miss you. She misses me. The woman who ghosted her sick husband during the worst time of his life misses me. And oh, she sprinkled in the magic phrase, you were always the love of my life. I nearly spit out my coffee when I read that part. Still, part of me wanted to know what the hell made her crawl back after 12 years. So, against my better judgment, I agreed to meet her. Neutral place, daylight. Somewhere public in case she decided to go full Lifetime movie. We met at this coffee shop downtown. She walked in like it hadn't been over a decade. Like we had just hit pause. Same high heels. Same smug confidence. But time hadn't been kind. There were cracks in that facade now. She gave me this over-the-top smile and reached in for a hug like we were long-lost lovers. I stepped back. No, I said flatly. She looked shocked, like I was the one being rude. We sat down and she started talking. And wow, what a show. She laid it on thick. Told me how her marriage to the Tesla guy fell apart. Surprise, surprise, he cheated on her constantly. Said she'd been through a spiritual awakening after getting divorced twice. Yep, Tesla bro wasn't the last one. She's been in therapy. Found Jesus. Tried ayahuasca in Costa Rica. All that healing crystal bullsh asterisk tea. Then she dropped the line that nearly made me choke on my iced coffee. I realized no one has ever loved me the way you did. Lady, I loved you while I had IVs in both arms and couldn't even walk to the bathroom. And you packed your bags to chase protein powder money and an all-inclusive vacation. I didn't say that out loud, though. I just stared at her. Then came the kicker. She looked me in the eye and said, I want to try again. I think we still have something special. It was like she truly believed the past didn't exist. Like she thought I'd just been waiting for her to come to her senses. She actually said, "You're single? I'm single. Why not?" So she says, "We're both single. Why not?" I blinked. Slowly. Like my brain needed a minute to reboot after hearing something so unhinged. I leaned back in my chair, arms crossed, and asked, "Why now? Why 12 years later? Why after leaving me when I couldn't even walk? After ghosting me, divorcing me, marrying someone else, and vanishing from my life like I never existed? Why the hell now?" She blinked, like it had never even occurred to her that I might not be thrilled to see her. Her voice got real soft, and she gave me this look like she was trying to squeeze out some tears. Because I was lost. Because I didn't know what I wanted back then. I was scared. I was young. She was 31 when she left me. Not exactly a scared teenager. Then she added, "You have no idea how guilty I've felt." "Oh, really?" I said, because from where I was lying, in a hospital bed with a catheter and a nurse sponge bathing me, you didn't look too guilty jet skiing in Bali. That shut her up for a minute. Then she tried to spin it. I needed to escape. It was overwhelming. You were dying. I was drowning emotionally. I stared at her and said the quiet part out loud. "You left me because I wasn't useful to you anymore." Boom. She looked offended, like I just accused her of murder. That's not fair. I was suffering too. I laughed. I actually laughed. It was one of those bitter, "Are you serious?" kind of laughs. Then she said, "I know I made mistakes, but I've worked on myself. I meditate. I've gone to therapy. I've read so many books about trauma and healing. I've learned so much. And I swear to God," she followed that up with, "I think we could be even better now than we were back then." I looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel anything. Not rage. Not sadness. Not love. Just nothing. She wasn't the woman I'd married. Hell, maybe she never was. So I told her, "You're 12 years too late. I'm not the same man you left. And you don't get to come back now that your new life fell apart." She got defensive real fast. "I came here vulnerable. I came here open. I thought you'd at least appreciate that." I stood up and said, "You want appreciation? Go talk to your yoga instructor." I walked out. Didn't look back. But the story doesn't end there. Oh no. Because 2 days later, she showed up at my house. Unannounced. In the rain. Crying. So 2 days later, there's a knock at my door. It's 9:30 p.m. I'm in sweatpants, halfway through a rewatch of The Sopranos, drinking chamomile tea like the well-adjusted man I've fought hard to become. I open the door, and there she is. Sasha. Soaked from the rain, no umbrella, mascara running down her face like something out of a low-budget breakup music video. She's standing there like a drowned rat clutching her purse, shivering, eyes all wide and glassy. "I didn't know where else to go," she says. I blink. I can list a few places off the top of my head. Starting with not here. She sniffled dramatically, like I was supposed to wrap her in a blanket and carry her over the threshold or something. "I've been thinking about everything you said. You were right," she whispered. "I was selfish. I was weak. But I'm not that woman anymore." Then she drops this bomb. "I'm homeless." "Excuse me?" She explains, through crocodile tears, that her second marriage crashed and burned after she found him cheating on her with their mutual yoga instructor, points for irony. She moved out and couch surfed for a bit, but apparently burned every bridge along the way. Her family cut her off years ago. No surprise, her mom once called me to apologize on her behalf back when we were still married. She has nowhere to go, no job, and no savings. Said she just needed a place to stay for a few nights. A few nights? In my house. After 12 years of radio silence, I looked at her and said flatly, "You're not staying here." "But I don't have anyone else," she said, voice cracking. "And whose fault is that?" She got pissed then. The mask slipped a little. "Oh, so you're just going to leave me out here in the rain? After everything we had?" I folded my arms. "You left me in a hospital. An AF ****ing wheelchair. Don't talk to me about abandonment." Then she has the audacity to say, "I always knew you'd never forgive me. You love holding on to your pain more than you ever loved me." That hit something in me, not because it was true, but because it was such a classic Sasha deflection. Projecting her own failure onto me. Making me the villain in the story she wrote with her own lies. I told her I'd call her a cab. She refused. Said she'd rather die in the rain than be humiliated like this. I shrugged. "Your call." I shut the door. She sat on the porch for another 20 minutes. I watched through the blinds. Eventually, the cab I ordered showed up. She didn't even look back as she climbed in. The next morning, I got a text. I didn't mean to hurt you. I never stopped loving you. I hope someday you'll remember who we used to be. I blocked her number, but that wasn't the end either. Because the next person to reach out wasn't her. It was her mother. The next morning, I'm at work, sipping my coffee, feeling the kind of calm you get after slamming a door on your past and locking it shut, until my phone buzzes. Unknown number. I don't answer, but it leaves a voicemail. I listen to it on my break, not expecting much. And boom, it's Sasha's mom. The same woman who, 12 years ago, called me crying after Sasha left me, saying, "I don't know what's wrong with my daughter. You deserved better." No? A very different tone. "Hi, this is Lorraine. I know this is awkward, but Sasha told me what happened. She's going through a hard time. Maybe you could find it in your heart to help her out, just temporarily. She always said you were the most decent man she ever knew. Please give her another chance to explain. She's not in a good place." Are you kidding me? I sat there stunned. Not because Lorraine called, but because Sasha had gone crying to her mother trying to guilt-trip me through a third party. I didn't respond. I didn't even consider it. I just deleted the voicemail. But the hits kept coming. Later that night, I got a Facebook friend request from Sasha's new ex-husband, the Tesla guy. At this point, I'm thinking, is this a social media prank? Am I on some hidden camera show called Guess Who's Desperate? I click on his profile. He has a public post from a few days ago. A photo of himself on a yacht with another woman, captioned, "Fresh starts, clear skies." Dude moved on fast. I guess loyalty isn't in his supplement package. Then I get a message from him. "Hey man, weird to reach out, I know. But just a heads up, Sasha's spiraling. She's been showing up at my job, trying to get me back. Told me she was going to go back to the only man who ever really loved her. Just thought you should know what she's been saying. Good luck." I stared at that message for a long time. Not because I was shocked, honestly, nothing Sasha did could surprise me anymore, but because this was the final confirmation I didn't even realize I needed. She wasn't coming back because she loved me. She was circling back because she ran out of options. And she thought I was still the same guy. Still the soft-hearted, devoted husband who'd take her back like some lost dog. The truth? I buried that man years ago, along with the wedding ring and every anniversary card she ever gave me. I didn't reply to Tesla guy either. What was there to say? "Thanks for the heads up. Sorry you married the mess I barely survived." I just blocked them both. But I'll be honest, that night, lying in bed, something cracked open in me. Not sadness. Not anger. Relief. I finally realized I wasn't grieving her anymore. I was grieving the version of myself that put up with her, that loved her, that couldn't see who she really was. I don't think she'll stop here, though. And spoiler, she didn't, because a week later, she showed up again. But this time, she brought something with her. So yeah, just when I thought the saga was over, the emotional barnfire that is Sasha flared up again. It's a week later. I'm getting ready to head out, normal Saturday stuff. Grocery run, maybe hit the gym. I open the door and she's back. Standing on my porch like some twisted Amazon Prime delivery, but this time she's not alone. She's holding a toddler. I swear, for a solid 3 seconds, my brain just blue-screened. I looked at the kid, then at her, then back at the kid. She's clutching this little girl, maybe 2, max, on her hip like it's the most casual thing in the world. The girl's got these big brown eyes and a juice-stained shirt. Not crying, just silently observing, like even she knew something was off. I finally manage. "Sasha, what the hell is this?" She goes, "This is Emily." I stare at her. And she's mine. I mean, ours. Pause. I laugh. I actually laughed so hard I had to lean against the doorframe. She goes, "I'm serious." I blinked. "You're telling me this kid is my daughter? Are you out of your damn mind?" And then she says, "I got pregnant right before the divorce. I didn't want to tell you while you were recovering. Then everything happened with Todd, that's Tesla bro, and I didn't know how to come back from it." I said, flat out, "You mean you didn't want to come back until he kicked you out?" She didn't deny it, just stood there, adjusting Emily on her hip like that made this whole ambush look maternal instead of manipulative. I asked, "Where's her birth certificate? DNA test? Anything that proves she's mine?" "I didn't come here to fight," she said. "I came here because I don't want to lie to you anymore." How noble. After 12 years, now the truth matters. Here's the thing, though. I'm not a total idiot. I remember the exact timeline of when I was hospitalized, when she stopped sleeping at home, and when the divorce hit. And if she got pregnant right before the divorce? That math doesn't math. I told her that. She looked cornered, hesitated, then said, "Okay, maybe it was a little after." But that doesn't change the fact that you could be her father. Could, I repeated. So you're here to test that theory? She tried to soften it. I'm here because she deserves to know her real dad. Unreal. This woman blew up my life, vanished, married a guy for his money, left him when he got tired of her, maybe had a child with someone else, and now she's knocking on my door trying to play house? I told her, if you really believed I was her father, you would have come to me when she was born, not when you had no one else. And then, cherry on top, Sasha looks at me and says, I was scared you'd reject her the way you're rejecting me now. Lady, you rejected me 12 years ago like I was last season's handbag. I stepped outside, shut the door behind me, and said calmly, you're not welcome here. If you want me to take a paternity test, we can do that, through lawyers. She got all indignant, like I was being dramatic. I asked her if she even knew for sure who the father was. Her silence said everything. She left. No yelling. No dramatics this time. Just walked away, kid in tow. But guess what? The next morning, I had a lawyer in my inbox. The next morning, I'm sipping coffee, scrolling through emails, just trying to have one peaceful damn Sunday. And boom, there it is. An email from a family law firm. Subject line, paternity inquiry, Sasha last name. I nearly choked on my coffee. Inside was a formal request to voluntarily submit to a paternity test to establish potential parental responsibility for a minor child named Emily. It was couched in that overly polite legalese that somehow makes you feel both sued and insulted at the same time. They included all the basics, Sasha's name, the child's birth date, which, by the way, was 10 full months after our divorce was finalized, and a suggestion that we handle this amicably and avoid unnecessary escalation. Unnecessary escalation. Right. You drop a toddler on my porch like a bomb, and then send me legal paperwork before I've even had time to digest the lie, and now we're all about diplomacy? I didn't respond right away. I called my own lawyer instead. A no-nonsense, divorce-hardened queen named Donna who helped me through the fallout years ago. She remembered Sasha immediately. Donna listened quietly, then said in her usual dry tone, so she found Jesus, a deadbeat second husband, and now thinks you're an ATM with a conscience? That's why I love Donna. She told me not to panic. We'd get a court-ordered DNA test if it came to that. But she also warned me, if I was the father, even unintentionally, I could be on the hook for back child support depending on how this played out. I felt sick. Not because of the money, though let's be real, it's not exactly pocket change, but because I couldn't shake this feeling that I was being used again. Not as a partner. Not as a man. But as some walking safety net she thought would be too decent to let a kid fall through the cracks. The next day, Sasha called. Yep, called, like nothing had happened. I let it go to voicemail. Hey, I know you're probably upset. I didn't mean to ambush you. I just wanted you to meet her before all the legal stuff got messy. She's a good kid. I know I messed up, but please, don't punish her for my mistakes. Just call me back, okay? And there it was. The emotional manipulation she's always been so good at, twisting my sense of responsibility, my empathy, into a weapon. But here's the thing. I know myself now, and I know the version of me she thinks she's talking to. That guy's gone. Still, I agreed to the DNA test, for one reason. If that little girl is mine, she deserves the truth. And if she's not, Sasha never gets to darken my doorstep again. So we did it. We went to the lab. No drama. No talking. I barely looked at her. While I waited for the results, which took about a week, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking, what if? What if that little girl was mine? Could I be a father now? After all this time? After that woman? What if this whole mess somehow tethered me to Sasha for the rest of my life? Well, the results came in, and let me tell you, they changed everything. The envelope was thinner than I expected. I sat at my kitchen table staring at it like it was a loaded weapon, just one sheet of paper inside, my entire future hanging on a single line of DNA. I opened it, read the results. Probability of paternity, 0.00%. I stared at it for a full minute, waiting for my brain to catch up. Then I read it again. 0.00. I let out a laugh that turned into a choke, then a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Relief hit me like a truck. Like someone had been pressing a brick to my chest for a week and finally let go. I wasn't the father. That poor little girl, Emily, she wasn't mine. And you know what? I wasn't even mad. Not at her. Anyway, she didn't choose any of this. She's just a kid who got born into a tornado of her mother's making. But Sasha? I was furious. This woman dragged me through 12 years of silence, then reappears, says she still loves me, cries on my porch, slaps me with a lawyer, lies about a child, all because she thought a baby might soften me up? What kind of person does that? Donna called me as soon as she got the lab's copy. Congratulations, she said dryly. You've officially dodged 2 bullets, her and the potential child support. I asked her if I could now legally bar Sasha from contacting me. She said she'd get the paperwork started. It'd take a few weeks, but we'd file a restraining order and put this whole chapter to rest. So, I was free. Absolutely, totally, legally, biologically free. Or so I thought. Because apparently, Sasha didn't take the news well. The day after the results came in, I got another visit, but not from her. This time, it was her sister. Yep, Sasha sent her big sister, let's call her Vanessa, to talk some sense into me. Vanessa shows up unannounced, arms crossed, standing in my driveway like she owns the place. She doesn't even say hello. Just dives in. You didn't have to be so cold to her. You know she's been through hell? I stood there dumbfounded. She lied about a kid being mine. She was desperate, Vanessa snapped. She thought maybe you'd reconnect if there was a reason to. By manufacturing a child? She made a mistake. No, she made about 100 mistakes, starting 12 years ago. Vanessa tried to backpedal, but I wasn't in the mood. I cut her off and said, this conversation's over. And you can tell Sasha that if she sends anyone else to my door, the cops will be next. I walked inside and shut the door in Vanessa's stunned face. She banged on it for a bit, called me a few names I won't repeat, and finally left. I watched her drive off. And for the first time in years, I felt something I didn't think I'd get back. Peace. But wouldn't you know it, Sasha had one more card to play. And it involved a secret she's been sitting on for over a decade. So after slamming the door on Vanessa's guilt parade, I figured that was it. DNA tests said I wasn't the dad. I'd filed the paperwork to block further contact. Sasha had tried every emotional ploy short of faking amnesia. The saga had to be over. Wrong. Because a few days later, I get this email. No subject line, no greeting, just this. Before you close the door on me forever, you deserve to know the truth about what really happened the night I left you. At this point, I almost deleted it without reading, but that line, it hooked something in me. Not because I expected closure, but because I knew Sasha couldn't resist dropping one final mind **** before fading back into the ether. The email was long, messy, rambling. But the core of it was this. She didn't just leave me for the Tesla guy. She left me because she was already pregnant, with his baby. Yep. Turns out that trip she took to clear her head during my second hospital stay, that wasn't some mental health retreat. That was a weekend getaway to Napa with her new boyfriend. And it wasn't their first. She found out she was pregnant while I was still in rehab. She told Tesla guy. He wanted her to handle it, her words. She panicked. Didn't know what to do. And instead of facing either of us like a grown adult, she ghosted me and latched onto him, convinced she could make it work if she just cut ties with her past. Only it didn't work. They got married out of obligation. He resented her for it. She resented him for not being me. That one made me gag a little, and the marriage slowly imploded over the next few years. So why the lie, all these years later? Because part of me always hoped that child was yours. I told myself maybe there was a chance. And maybe that meant something. I needed to believe you were still out there, that I hadn't burned it all to the ground. Sasha wasn't just trying to come back. She was trying to rewrite history, turn a selfish, cowardly betrayal into some fated tragedy. She ended the email with, "You were the best man I ever knew. I just wasn't ready to be the woman you deserved. I don't expect forgiveness, but please don't hate me." And that's the thing, I don't hate her. I pitied her, and that was worse. Because now, even the anger was gone. I built my rage into a wall for years, brick by brick. And suddenly, I realized she didn't have the power to hurt me anymore. Not really. Not unless I let her. I didn't respond to the email. I forwarded it to Donna for the record and blocked the address. But here's where it got weird again, because the next day, I got a Facebook message from a woman I didn't know. Her name? Rachel. Her message? "Hi, I'm sorry if this is out of the blue. I don't know you personally, but I think we might have something in common. You were married to Sasha, right? So yeah, I get this message from Rachel, a complete stranger, who opens with, 'You were married to Sasha, right?' I didn't respond immediately. I've had enough surprises from women claiming to be part of Sasha's past/present/fan club. But I checked her profile. Normal enough. Real photos. Mutuals? None. So I reply, cautiously, 'Yeah. Why?' Her response? 'Because I was too. I think we should talk.' I swear, I stared at that message for so long my phone screen dimmed out. I asked, too, as in also married to her? And Rachel said, 'Not married. but I was engaged to her for 3 years, until she vanished on me without a word. Excuse me. What? Now I'm thinking either this woman is messing with me or Sasha's relationship history is even more twisted than I thought. So I asked for a call. We talked for over an hour, and let me tell you, Rachel wasn't lying. She met Sasha through a non-profit event 6 years ago. Thought Sasha was charming, smart, a little eccentric, but nothing alarming. They hit it off. Things moved fast. Too fast, if you ask me, but love goggles, right? Sasha told Rachel she'd been deeply hurt in a previous marriage. Claimed her ex-husband had abandoned her when she was pregnant and sick, aka she flipped our actual story and made me the villain. Said she was rebuilding her life. That she never thought she'd find love again. That this time, it was real. Rachel believed her. They moved in together. Got engaged. Sasha even wore a ring she said was her grandmother's. Spoiler, it was our old wedding ring, with the stone swapped out. I nearly threw my phone when I heard that part. Then, just like with me, Sasha ghosted. Took Rachel's money, some jewelry, a laptop, and disappeared. No breakup. No goodbye. Just vanished. Rachel tried filing a police report, but since Sasha had technically lived with her and had access to the stuff, it turned into a civil matter. She never saw a dime or Sasha again. Until recently, when she saw a comment Sasha left on a public post on my profile. That's how she found me. She said, I needed to know if I was crazy. If I was the only one she did this to. I told her, oh no, you're not. We ended up comparing notes for almost 2 hours. Turns out Sasha's had at least 4 serious relationships since our divorce. In every single one, she spun the same narrative, wounded woman, wronged by a cruel man, just trying to find love again. It was her damn trademark. But here's the part that made my blood run cold. Rachel said Sasha mentioned having a backup plan if things ever went south. She described it like a joke, Rachel said. There's always one person who'll still love me no matter what. No matter how far I fall. And she named me. Me. Like I was some kind of emotional safety net she kept on a shelf in case the world stopped catching her. I hung up that night and just sat in the dark. Not sad. Not angry. Just stunned. Because for the first time in years, I realized I didn't just escape a failed marriage. I escaped a predator. Someone who manipulates with tears in her eyes and a sob story on her lips, then disappears the second the mask slips. Rachel and I agreed to stay in touch. She might join the case if things escalate, especially if Sasha tries to pull anything else. And God, I wish I could say she didn't. So, a few days after Rachel and I compared our war stories, I get a voicemail from Sasha. It starts sweet, calm, almost like she's trying to play Stepford wife through the phone. Hey, I heard you, and Rachel spoke. That's fine, I guess. I mean, I get it. You're hurt. You want answers. Then the voice starts shifting, like she's unraveling mid-message. But, you know, airing my past to people who don't understand the whole story? That's really unfair. Unfair. This woman impersonated trauma like it was a party trick, lied about a child being mine, tried to wedge herself back into my life with a suitcase full of regret and manipulation, and I'm the unfair one? I deleted the message. But that didn't stop her. Oh no. The next morning, I wake up to 10 missed calls, a half-dozen texts, and a full-blown email essay. Subject line, this has gone too far. In the email, she accused me of turning people against her, said Rachel had no right to dredge up the past, and that this was all a witch hunt to punish her for not being perfect. She actually typed the sentence, "You're trying to erase me like I never mattered." And that was the moment it clicked for me. This wasn't about love, or redemption, or even guilt. This was about control. Sasha didn't come back because she loved me. She came back because I was the last person who remembered the version of herself she liked most. The woman who was adored, worshipped, forgiven. She needed that mirror again, someone to reflect a better version of herself back to her. And when I refused to hold it up, she lost her grip. So when the email didn't work, she escalated. She showed up at my workplace. Yup. Middle of the day, I'm in a team meeting, and my coworker buzzes me from the front desk. Hey, there's a woman here asking for you. Says it's personal. I froze. Did she say her name? Sasha. I'm not proud of what I did next, but I straight up walked out the back door of my office. I wasn't about to give her the audience she clearly wanted. Later, my coworker told me she stayed in the lobby for 15 minutes, pacing, crying, asking if I had someone new. Like she thought I'd replaced her, and that was the real betrayal. Donna filed for a restraining order the next day. And this time, we had receipts. The DNA fraud, the workplace ambush, the false paternity claim. It all painted the picture of someone who wasn't just unstable but actively harassing me. But while we were waiting for the court date, she pulled her final stunt. And I wish I were making this up. So, we're in the home stretch now. Sasha's been spiraling, voicemails, emails, unannounced drop-ins, and now a restraining order pending. You'd think most people would get the hint at that point. Not Sasha. No. Sasha doubled down and went full creepy romantic drama meets psych thriller. It was a Sunday afternoon. I'd finally carved out some peace, music on, windows open, just cleaning out the garage. And there it was, buried in a dusty box I hadn't opened in years, my old wedding album. Except, it wasn't in the box. It was on the porch, wrapped in a plastic grocery bag, with a note taped to the front. I froze when I saw it. The note said, "I held on to this all these years because I couldn't let go. I thought maybe one day you'd want to remember the way we were. We were happy once. I still have the dress. You looked at me like I was your world. Maybe I can be her again." She'd been in my house. Let that sink in. Because that album? That was never in storage. It was in my closet for the first 2 years after the divorce. Then I moved it to a private box I kept in the garage behind all my tools and paint cans. The only way she'd have it now is if she took it before she left and kept it all these years. And now she brought it back, like it was some cursed artifact from a failed ritual. I didn't even open it. Just stared at the cover, our names in gold foil, the date embossed underneath. The last day I ever believed she'd never hurt me. I called Donna immediately. Told her she'd been at the house again. She said it was time to press charges for harassment, especially now that Sasha was not only showing up, but leaving items, and clearly still had keys from over a decade ago. We changed the locks that night, and I finally tossed that damn album in the trash. But here's the twist. The next morning, I got one final email from Sasha. No begging, no apologies. Just this: "I'm sorry it turned out this way. I truly believed we were meant to find our way back to each other. I was wrong. I see that now. I hope you're happy someday, even if it's not with me." And that was it. Radio silence. No more calls. No more drive-bys. No cryptic deliveries. She just vanished. You'd think that would be the end of it, right? Except someone else reached out a week later. A name I hadn't heard in over a decade. Her therapist. A week passes. No Sasha. No voicemails. No porch gifts. For the first time in what felt like an entire emotional hostage crisis, I started breathing like a normal human again. And then I get a letter. An actual paper letter in my mailbox. No return address. Just my name, neatly written. Inside, a single sheet of thick stationery with a header that read, "Dr. Malcolm Reed, licensed psychotherapist." At first, I thought, is this a lawsuit? Some weird mental health subpoena? But then I read the opening line, "Mr. Last Name, I am writing this to you with Sasha's consent." Yeah, that's Sasha. I read on. Apparently, Sasha had been seeing this guy off and on for years. The letter wasn't medical, no details, no diagnoses, but more of a weird closure effort. One she requested. According to Dr. Reed, Sasha had recently experienced a severe emotional regression following multiple traumatic relationship failures, which I'm assuming is therapist speak for she finally hit rock bottom after trying to play her greatest hits tour on a loop. But the kicker? She's requested that I communicate one final message to you. She acknowledges the harm she caused. She no longer seeks reconciliation. She understands now that her version of love was based on control and fear of abandonment. She hopes you never again carry the weight of her mistakes as your burden, and at the bottom, she will not contact you again. This is the last thread she's cutting. No signature from her. Just the therapist. Now look, I didn't cry. I didn't feel some grand sweeping catharsis. But I did sit down. I just sat in my hallway with that letter in my hand for a long, long time. Not because I believed she was magically fixed, but because, for the first time, I felt done. Like the story that had defined so much of my pain had finally rolled credits. Not because she got better. Not because she made it right. But because I finally didn't need her to. I boxed up everything, old photos, mementos, court papers, even that letter. Taped it up. Labeled it history. Tossed it in storage. And then, I booked a trip. Just me. Week off work. Cabin in the woods. Offline. No ghosts. But before I left, I wrote something down. Something I didn't even know I'd needed to say for over a decade. After everything, Sasha's manipulation, the fake paternity drama, the emails, the porch stunts, even the letter from her therapist, I still felt like something in me was unresolved. Like I had climbed out of the wreckage, but pieces of the wreckage were still clinging to me. So before I left for a short trip I'd planned, a solo getaway to a cabin out in the middle of nowhere, I sat down at my kitchen table and wrote a letter. Not to her, not to a lawyer, not to anyone else. I wrote it to the man I used to be, the version of me 12 years ago, lying in a hospital bed wondering where the hell his wife went. I wrote, "You don't know it yet, but she's already gone. The woman you're hoping will walk through that hospital room door? She's not coming. She's not busy. She's not scared. She's just done. You'll spend days, weeks, maybe months blaming yourself, thinking if you were stronger, healthier, better, she would have stayed. But she wouldn't have, because people like her don't stay when things get hard. They stay when things are easy, when they're adored, doted on, and everything is about them. The second you became the one who needed something, she was already halfway out the door. And you're going to go through hell because of it. You're going to wonder if you'll ever trust anyone again, if you'll ever love someone again. You'll replay conversations, dig through memories, trying to find the exact second she stopped caring. But here's the truth, you won't find it, because it doesn't matter. What matters is this: she left, and you stayed. You stayed alive, you stayed loyal, you stayed human, and that means something. One day, she's going to come back. With excuses, tears, and some twisted fantasy that you two were meant to find your way back to each other. She'll lie. She'll manipulate. She'll bring you ghosts wrapped in fake closure. And you won't fall for it, because by then, you'll know who you were without her. And you'll finally understand, she didn't break you. She freed you. So hold on, the nights are going to suck. But it gets better. You get better. I didn't keep the letter. I burned it in the fire pit that night before I left for the cabin, watched the edges curl and turn to ash, and I swear, with every bit that burned, I felt something heavy finally lift. I spent that week off-grid, no phone, no internet, no drama. Just me, the trees, and silence. When I came back, I felt lighter, calmer. For the first time in years, I felt like she didn't own even the smallest corner of my head. But just as I was settling back into that peace, I found something in my mailbox. A plain envelope. No return address. No stamp. Just one word handwritten across the front. Goodbye. Inside that unmarked envelope was a single sheet of paper. No fancy letterhead. No dramatic poetry. No lipstick-stained edges or perfume like Sasha used to send in her twisted love letters. Just a short handwritten note, unmistakably in her handwriting, looping, perfect cursive that always looked too neat for someone so chaotic. It read, "I understand now. You really don't love me anymore. You don't even hate me. You're done. And that's what finally broke me. You were always the one real thing I had, and I destroyed it. I kept thinking if I showed you enough of my pain, you'd remember how much you used to care. But pain isn't love, and I know that now. I'm letting go. Goodbye." That was it. No name, no plea, no ask for one last chance. Just that. I sat with it for a while, reading it a few times, trying to feel something. Pity? Regret? Nostalgia? Nothing. Not even relief. Just this calm, flat understanding that I had officially reached the end of something that had started the day she walked out of that hospital room and never looked back. I didn't respond. I didn't burn it this time either. I folded it and tossed it in the same box where all her chaos belonged, filed under "no longer mine." I haven't heard from her since. Not a text. Not a knock. Not a shadow on my porch. I don't know where she is now. I don't want to know. All I know is this. I survived the worst heartbreak of my life. I didn't just survive it, I grew out of it. And the man I am now, he doesn't waste forgiveness on people who only show up when they've run out of other options. So if anyone reading this is clinging to a memory, a maybe, or a person who once held your heart in one hand and a match in the other, let me tell you, you are allowed to let go. You are allowed to stop waiting. You are allowed to choose peace over potential. She left me when I was broken, and I'm grateful now because it taught me how to rebuild myself without her. I didn't get the apology I deserved, but I did get my life back, and that's more than enough.